Hi, my name is Susan Block. I'm the studio coordinator here at Tailored Expressions in Ankeny, Iowa, and I did a class last week for the Nuvo Mousse, and I'm going to show you about the cards that we did. So I'm going to start with the first one. And this is our first card we're going to make. It's the basic way to use the Nuvo Mousse, I think. You can use it with stencils, but I prefer to take Taylor's cutting plates, whichever cutting plate you like. I picked the bold lace, and I like to cut it out of paper because then I don't have to worry about cleaning anything up. I can just throw it out when I'm done if I wish. So the first thing I'm going to do is I like to take just a scratch piece of paper, and a lot of my projects I'll show you today, I like to tape it down just so that I don't have to worry about losing it or it moving on me. So I'm going to tape our blue corn paper down, and this is our Buttercream cardstock, but you can use whatever. At least a cardstock would be good because typing paper is kind of thin. I took this and I sprayed it a little bit with the Easy Tack repositionable adhesive. You can use whatever. If you have a liquid adhesive that is repositionable, you can skip that. It's completely up to you. I just like, because this one has a lot of loose pieces, to help kind of keep it down. So I sprayed that. It's just barely tacky. I'm gonna put it down on my blue corn cardstock. Give it just a little bit of a rub. And then I'm gonna put our, whatever you have for masking. I like to tape down all four sides completely, just so I know it's stuck. And again, this is one of those things that it's completely up to you. Whatever you use, whatever your tools are. I like to tape it down, and again, this is on my scratch paper, so when I'm all done, this all just gets tossed. And I don't have to clean anything up. I know I could use like a mat or something, but I'm not big on cleaning. So that's all down. Then this is the Nuvo Mousse. This is the Mother of Pearl. I love this one. This happened to be, this one and the Platinum were my first two colors because I think it just goes with a lot. It works with a lot of paper. It works great on any dark colored cardstock. And as you will see in our class, we went through, this is the second jar in my class. So you use quite a bit of mousse for this project. The rest of the projects you hardly use any. And the mousse is kind of like an embossing paste. I say it's kind of like softened butter. Whether you're hungry or looking for makeup, this is kind of the consistency that it is. It's kind of a rouge, something like that. So anyway, and you scoop it out. I like to use the palette knives, just something with a long, sharp edge. And then I don't know that you have to, but I always start from the top and work my way down. And again, like I said, this is all getting tossed out, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. Just do the whole thing. I try not to press too hard too, so that I don't get it sliding underneath my stencil. And you want to use any extra that you can just to kind of save your product a little bit. Like I said, this is the one technique that kind of uses a little more of your product than the rest of it, but this is our last little bit. And make sure all your spaces are covered in, or filled in, I should say. And then just do one last swipe, just to kind of even it out. You don't want it clumpy on the top or anything. And then the thing that I like to do, this product really, it does dry out. So if you're using like a plastic stencil or something, make sure you wash it right away, or even like your palette knives. I like to push my product back together. I don't know if that's just something when, being as it's cold here in Iowa, that it seems like it's drying on me, but I like to push all my products back together so it stays not dried out. So put my lid on there, dry that off in a second here. Do as I say, not as I do. And then peel them off as you put them down, otherwise you won't be able to get it all off of there. Stay. I usually end up wearing it. And then peel this part off. Voila, isn't it pretty? And here's the thing, you can either toss this or you can hold on to it. I'll show you in a minute something that I did with that. But you're more than welcome to just toss that. So I'm gonna leave this one here, being as I taped it down, just to let that dry. And like I said, this whole piece of paper I'll just toss and get rid of. This is what it looks like all dry. So it takes, I would say, maybe 15 to 30 minutes depending on how thick you put it down. So now that's all dry. This one, it kind of got under the stencil a little bit for me, but we're gonna cover it up with the banner. So luckily the one I just did was perfect. So adhere this down. And this is saltwater taffy cardstock. And like I think I said earlier, this was the darker navy blue color is blue corn. Then I'm going to use our Shade Tree Sentiments. This happens to be one of my favorite stamp sets. I just think it's super versatile and I really like the scripty font in it. But I already threw the lovely Magic of Television. I stamped with blue corn, the Thinking of You. These are our stitched banner, or not stitched, these are our banner dies. And layered them. This is saltwater taffy cardstock. And I did take and put foam adhesive on the back just to not bore you with that. Peel that off. I did also trim that edge of the banner off just because I wanted it to be flush over here. And again, I'm going to cover that little spot up. Glue that down, and then I took just a little bit of twine, but you could use whatever you wanted or skip it, put a flower there. And I took our twine and I folded it, I think this was about 24 inches, folded it in half. I'm just going to take and tie that. I love twine. It's just simple. It does whatever you want, basically. Tie that up. Grab my scissors. Sorry, one side is bigger than the other. Take it and cut the tails. And I'm going to use multi-matte medium. That happens to be my favorite just because I'm not really good friends with liquid glue, and this dries matte, so I don't, if it gushes out, I don't have to really see it, or the recipient doesn't have to see it. I'm just going to put a little bit on there. Put that down. And you can cover it up with whatever you want, just to hold it and keep it tight. But this is the finished one. Pretty close to this one. And then back to this, I told you that I had saved, this is a dry one, this is not the one I just did. I had saved mine, and I went ahead and put our rectangle stitched frames around it just to use that, because it sure is pretty, it's sure shimmery and stuff. So as to not waste it, you could throw it out if you want, or if it ripped or something like that. But so that's our first card. Okay, and this is the second card we're going to do. This is one of my favorites. I really like how this one turned out. I send a lot of birthday cards. So this is kind of a basic technique that I've seen a lot. And Taylor has tons of beautiful embossing folders, so it's really great to have this. It just kind of makes everything pop. So this is the next card we're going to make. And I sort of, through the lovely, Magic of Television, went and already embossed this with the Graphic Impressions embossing folder. And this is Plum Punch cardstock that I did that on. And a lot of people that I watched use their finger, which you can, to rub on the mousse, but I didn't care for that. I found like I got in the valleys quite a bit, and it works, and it's fine if that's what you got, or what you have, that totally works. But one of the things I decided to do, my paper is attacking me, is I took the Nuvo Mousse. This happens to be the Pure Platinum. This is, like I said, another one of my favorites. I think it's a basic go-to to start with. This is what they look like new. I know the last one was kind of used up, but I decided to take the Ranger foam blending tools, the one with the round foam on it, and put it right in the mousse to pick it up. And like I said, make sure you put the lid on because I feel like it dries out fast. And a clear acrylic block. And the reason why I do the block is just to rub around some of the product to make sure it's not all stuck on the edges. And then I can come back and pick this up until it's gone. And then really, really light hand is the one thing I will tell you to do with this technique. And just really lightly run over the top of all that raised, beautiful embossing folder image. And I'm getting a little bit of the valleys, as I want to call it, but I just think it's a lot better, and my fingers aren't dirty. So, little bonus. Just rub over and just get all those raised impression there. Imagine, isn't that beautiful? Possibilities are endless with all the embossing folders Taylor has. Can you see all that sparkle? Okay, and that can set aside to dry, and as I've been saying over and over again, make sure you wipe this off. You could use that up if you're doing several cards, but I just like to make sure that I wipe it up because I don't want it to dry on there. Acrylic blocks, it's pretty easy to get off of, but like I said, with stencils, your palette knives, it might be a little bit harder. So this is going to be a very simple card. This is our background. And the other thing that I found with this Nuvo Mousse is once it's dry on paper, it pretty much stays where you put it. It doesn't come off on your hands, kind of like some of the other shimmery products. It rubs off. This one, you don't have to set it, just let it dry. So I'm going to take that, put this on our lavender lace card base. Press that down. Then I took our presents cutting plate. And that's the one that has the presents, and then it has the little pieces of paper that go behind all the presents. So I already have this cut out of sugar cube. And then this is, excuse me, saltwater taffy, lavender lace, and sheet, Granny Smith. And I took those with some liquid glue through the magic of television. I already glued them on the back. So I definitely like to use liquid glue because there's so many small spaces that we're dealing with. And I also cheated a little bit more, and I went ahead and put tape because, like I've already said, I'm not a huge fan of liquid glue. So if I can use score tape or this is sticky tape anywhere, I'll use that. So this is our 1/4 inch, I think it's called Express It sticky tape. I put that all over the back. So that will go on top to kind of cover up our edges. You could pop that up with foam or whatever, just kind of something strong because you've got all that impression from the embossing folder. You want to use something strong to keep it down. Then I love that If the Balloons Could Talk. It's a stamp and die combo. The dies come in it. But I took that beautiful happy birthday from it, and that's going to be our sentiment. Again, I used our banner Stacklets with the happy birthday and Oreo ink. See if I can get this straight. Getting my head in the way. Oh, that's pretty good. And again, cheated. I already put that 1/4 inch sticky tape on the back. That will go on here. And then that card is done. Easy and beautiful. And this is our 3rd card we're going to do. It's with the mousse where you add it with water and kind of make it into a paint. And there's several ways to use it. This one I just did it to create the background. Can you see it? It's totally shimmery. It makes a beautiful background. You get lots of fun colors of metallic paper out of your, your white cardstock. So that's the next card we're going to make. And with that, I took, this is the, I just have to look, this one's Aquamarine. And I took the smaller palette knife. If you get the set Taylor sells, the smaller set is good for picking up, just picking up the color that you want right out of the container. You don't need much for this. I would say this much, probably make 1 or 2 cards, depending on, and just have some cardstock with you and you can keep using it. I'm gonna take this, I have 2 jars here of clean and dirty water. I wanna make sure I use my clean water. I'm just gonna drop some water on this. I might have to add, we'll see here. And then I just mix it with my palette knife. So, and I want it to be at least a thick paint consistency. And you also want to make sure that you work out all the, bits of mousse or the clumpy parts. Sorry, is that a good word? I don't know. Of the mousse, just to make sure you're not going to have one big blop on your card. So as to work that out a little bit, I like to do that. Looks pretty good as I'm going to use as to not waste anything, we stampers can't waste anything. Clean that off quick. So I did that with Aquamarine, and then also I did it also with the Lilac Lavender ahead of time, just so I didn't have to bore you with that. I'll take this, and again, as I've been doing with all of my projects, I like to take just a piece of scratch paper, like, you know, your kids bring home schoolwork papers that you don't know what you're going to do with. Just flip them over and use the back side of them, glue down my project just so it doesn't move, and also that way I have a handle all the time to get it out of my way. So I have, this is the Aquamarine, and it looks pretty good. If you feel like it's too thick, you can always grab some of your clean water and add it to it. So I'm going to take the Aquamarine and just wipe it all over the background of my card. The one thing that I find is it doesn't really mix together, so I'm not going to get a third color out of this, but I am going to overlap them and just come up with a pretty look. So that's the Aquamarine. I'll take it. This is the Lavender, and I felt like it seems a little thick to me, so I'm going to get some clean water on my brush. So then I'm kind of going to be adding a little bit to that palette, and then add it. And I'm going to go overlap them, but they really don't blend, and they might blend a little bit better when it's wet, but I haven't been able to work fast enough to make that happen. So there's that. And you could put on as much or as little. You could add to it if you wanted it to keep going and keep layering up color. But this is kind of a background going already. So through the magic of television, as I keep saying, I have one that's all dry. I did it, gosh, I did this maybe 30 minutes ago, so it dries really fast. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to take it to my die machine and I'm going to cut it with our stitched rectangle die. This is for two reasons. One, it just gives me a pretty stitched edge with our stitched rectangles. Also, that warping, it really takes out a lot of the warping if you die cut it, because you're putting it through that machine and flattening it out. So this is the one that I die cut for us. And I'm going to take, what I did was, make sure it's completely dry. I took the pea pod and stamped the stems out of the Bloomin' birthday stamp set. And I forgot to bring that stamp set, but that's the stems out of there, and we're going to use the flowers from it too. When you stamp on this, being that it has such a sheen, it will stay wet. I've let this dry, but if you stamp on there, know that it could slide a little bit with your stamp. I'll show you, I guess I'll show you with this one. It's just not cut. Let's see that it stays wet because it doesn't give it really a surface to sink into. There's nothing that's letting that mousse is kind of protect. Can you see how that's wet? So just be careful that you either use a heat tool to dry it or let it set aside. That's what I did with that one, just to dry for a little while. You just don't want to, if you've made your pretty background, you don't want to smear it with your hand or something. So, and then to just kind of finish up this card, I took the Bloomin' birthdays and I stamped this flower. There's two flowers in that stamp set, and the saltwater taffy. And I took the Plum Punch and I stamped that one right there. And then the Cookie Monster. I love Taylor's inks. They have a nice felt pad on them, and they dry splotchy, but they dry back nice and smooth. If you see both of those, they're very smooth once they dry. So, and again, through the magic of television, I went and die cut these, but I wanted to point something out to you. This Plum Punch, or this flower that I used with the Plum Punch, has one petal where there's more of a space between it, and the crease between the two petals comes down further. So this one's super hard to line up the die. I went and put a dot with my black Sharpie, as long as you're cool with that. It really helps me to always know that that part of the die lines up with that part of my stamped image. Makes it tons easier to line up that die when I go to die cut. It made a big difference with the gals in class. So I haven't really come up with a trick for the other one, this 5-petal one, but it's not that hard to line that one up. So punch those out. And I did put foam tape on the back too. I didn't want to bore you guys with all this stuff. So again, being this is a little warped, even though the die cut machine helped a little bit, I like to put quite a bit of adhesive, or you could use foam tape, whatever you felt like, just to kind of flatten it out on the back. And I can rub over this, it's totally dry now. And then this. Before I do that, I want to show you something. I had Jill, who's sweet and does all of our cutting for our classes. This Hello die that I'm going to use in a second has Stick It on the back. I love using Stick It because, like I said, liquid adhesive and I are not really on speaking terms, so I'm always trying to find ways to not have to use my liquid glue. So we put Stick It on the back of the strip and the Hello. So I'm just going to peel this off. Of course, it's not going to cooperate with me, right? There we go. So then you have like a sticker on the back then, and that is brilliant for me. I trim that off. I like to leave, if I do a strip like that, I like to leave it long and cut it off because it never fails. I never seem to get them exactly perfectly right anyway. So take that down, and you can do this whatever order you like. Again, like I said, the Hello has Stick It on the back, which is brilliant, one of my favorite products. Makes it so easy that way. And one thing about Stick It is that you have to press it really hard to activate the adhesive. So press on it really good. Then we will put down our flowers. Foam adhesive on the back. I'm not going to totally stick that down. I always like to see and rearrange my flowers a little bit. Make sure I like where they're going. Here we go. Look. I didn't fully that. There we go. And then I use Taylor's enamel shapes to put centers on all your flowers. I love her new enamel shapes. And just a couple of examples of different things besides the paint. You don't have all this extra. You can do, I took our Bloomin background and I just took a small paintbrush and I was able to paint. I didn't finish that one. I'm kind of a quick project maker and that was taking me a while, so I stopped. This one I decided, and you're going to see this kind of an embossed resist look with the paint. I didn't love where this was going, so I quit, but some people in my class really liked the idea behind it. But again, this is where I talk about I can't really get them to blend very well. And then the last thing I want to show you is all this extra that I have here. I'm not doing a project with this, but it's just an idea for you. Is that you can take this and splatter with what you have left over. Sorry, Charlie. You can splatter any of that extra paint, however you would like, however your favorite way to splatter is, just to use up some of this. And this card right here is very, oh, sorry, wrong one. Where's that? Oh, here it is. Sorry, Charlie. This one, I used the platinum, and I splattered, I don't know, can you catch that? I splattered it all over in the background, like some people like to make watermarks in their background. I splattered it with the platinum, so I had used the clarity brushes to make the background, and then I splattered it with the platinum. So made a different background for you if you're trying to figure out how to use up the rest of your stuff. So, and that's the third card. Okay, this is the last card we're going to make, and it happens to be my personal favorite. One, because I love embossing and I love emboss resist, but I just love the look and I love the shine. And I'm like, you could make your whatever color of mousse you have, your endless options of metallic colored paper. So this is the last one we're going to make. It's actually pretty simple. I took our new, which is also one of my favorite things, Bloomin background, and I'm going to emboss it with clear embossing powder on our sugar cube cardstock. I'm just going to show you quick because I really like taking my cardstock to this instead of trying to pick this up and take it to my cardstock. So I was just going to show you that. I like to work it upside down. I don't even take it off the packaging. Ink it up with Versamark. And I forgot a step, but I got to show you this. This is one of my have-to things. I take, and Taylor sells these, Tailored Expression sells these, the EK embossing tools. Embossing, it just knocks down any oils that might be on your fingers, any of the static that might be in the cardstock, it takes care of all that, so you don't have stray embossing powder anywhere, and that's one of my favorite things. So I already have this inked with Versamark, and then I will take that side, put this on there, and then I take just a scratch piece of paper. I go through scratch paper like crazy, obviously, right? And then put that over the top, and then I can rub all over that background just to make sure I get it nice and covered. And if you notice, I always keep one hand still so I make sure my paper isn't sliding, and rub around with the other one that I'll move. So that keeps so you don't have to worry about having things messed up, or I don't know, like extra image, I should say. So I don't know if you can pick that up or not, but as soon as I throw on, so again, scratch paper. I'm a queen of scratch paper. I don't know, I have kids in school, so they bring home lots of paperwork, and I'm always feeling bad about throwing out all the paper, so it gives me another way to use up some of that scratch paper. And this is our Zing. This happens to be clear, but you could use clear or white, whatever you have. Let's cover the background. Tap it off. Not pretty? So pretty, it's not even heated yet. And then this way, I can take this scratch paper, funnel it back in, and I'm done with that. I can toss that or use it again, whichever. So, through the magic of video, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go heat emboss it, and it will look like this. I know you still can't really see it, but make sure it's all the way heat embossed, because we're going to rub over the top of it, and you can rub any embossing powder that's not fully heated off. So I always say just tip it and light really good. Make sure you don't have any dull looking spots, and everything looks shiny. So then again, I'm going to go back to my taping my project down. And then this is my Aquamarine Nuvo Mousse that I used on the last project. And I took, again, the Ranger foam applicators, have some foam on it, and I'm bringing it right into the tub here, and I'm doing basically an emboss resist with it. And again, I go to the acrylic block just like I did on the other project, only because I feel like it evens out what's on my foam applicator. And then this time, we don't have to have such a light hand with this one. I'm going to go over the top, and as I work this into the paper, all of that embossing we did will start to pop. Isn't that pretty? This is, like I said, this is my favorite of all 4 projects. But I obviously love the mousse. And then I kind of go over the top, even though I was running out of mousse, there wasn't anything on my really to come off anymore, but also helps buff then the white, so that white pops through with all of our images. I have to show you before I move on. I tried this same thing with using my finger with applying it, and I just couldn't get a very good, like in the wells and in these little spots, I couldn't get it in there very well. So the foam applicator was really helpful and kept my fingers clean. So that is the background for that one. I'll set that one. Like I said earlier, this stuff dries pretty quick once it's in paper. So I'm just gonna flip this over so we have a clean surface to work on. Go ahead and this one's pretty easy, gonna glue it down. I think the aquamarine is super pretty too. It's one of my favorite colors. And then I took, this is from our Peonies stamp set. It's a flower Simply Stamps peony set. Oh, sorry, I do have it. It happens to be this Praying for You. All those Simply Stamped flowers, I'm in love with the fonts that are in them. And so don't put your flowers away. Make sure you pay attention to what sentiments are in them. So again, I used my anti-static, especially being as I was using black embossing powder on this one. Stamped it with that Praying for You, embossed it in black, and this is our new stitched ovals. I think they came out a few months ago. Got that all ready, and I put foam adhesive on the back just to not bore you with all that. I love Taylor's foam adhesive because it comes in that big roll, so I don't have to feel bad about using a lot. I kind of seem to use a lot on my cards. I don't want anything to get saggy. So, and then I used the mini bloomers dies, and this is what we had left over from class. It's all these fun, isn't that fun? Just a bowl full of flowers. So I took them, and they are in our lavender lace, saltwater taffy, and sugar cube. And I cut them out, layered them up with some liquid adhesive, and then I put on the top, the center of them, some of Taylor's new enamel shapes. I have them all ready to go, and I believe I forgot my liquid. That's all right, this will work. I would normally use liquid adhesive to attach these just to make sure that when it goes through the mail, my receiver doesn't open up an envelope full of random flowers laying in the envelope, so. But this will work for the purpose of video. You could also put them on with foam tape too if you wanted to pop them up a little. So that is that card. And I want to show you, I didn't finish it all the way, but I did it in the Indian gold, and I just thought that was so pretty. I need to add some embellishments to it too, but I really love the Indian gold, but same technique, I just different color mousse. So, and that is our final card. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really kind of thinking about doing a second class one of these days, but I got to come up with the ideas first, but stay tuned.